What's up everybody, my name is Jillian and I'm going to be doing the takeover for today. I'm a third-year comp sci engineering student, and I mostly focus on AI and the combination of medical imaging technology to further advance the biomedical engineering field. I use Java, C, C++, and Python for the majority of any projects that I do, and I'm currently doing independent research on AI and medical imaging, specifically with ultrasound technology and how those two can intersect for better medical imaging scans in the future. I really got my start coding with robotics in high school, where I kind of got my start in object-oriented programming, and that led me to really where I am now and where my focus will be. Day-to-day looks a little bit consistent while having some chaotic days mixed in based on deadlines and exams and things like that. And what I mean by that is I used to always be a night owl, and then that kind of changed when I had to get up early for college. I had an 8 a.m. I couldn't get out of or switch, so I had to get up at 6 a.m. every day to get to campus and everything. So I kind of quickly became adapted to getting up early. Now I get up at 5 every day and take care of my dog first thing. We go outside, I give her breakfast, everything, and then after that I usually make my own breakfast, make some tea, plan out my day with a priority task list where I kind of prioritize based on deadlines and how long something is going to take, and I kind of treat it like time periods so that I know to stop at the end of those time periods, which helps me stay efficient and on task. After that, it's probably around 8 a.m. by that point, and that's really where I've decided to just start working on projects and homework from 8 to noon, which is when my first class starts now. So from noon to 4 is really my class block of most of the days, and so I'll work on projects before that, so that way it gives me a little bit more leeway during and after that class to work on anything that's just quick and I can get done really easily. I always tell people, and I've experienced this, I do this, I live by this, my sister did this, my dad did this, treat college kind of like a 9-to-5 job. It kind of helps. And what I mean by that is it's really easy when you get to college because you're going to have such like a different schedule all the time, that if you get out at 2 p.m. one day, or if you are in there until 6 p.m. one day, or whatever it is, that once you're done, or before that, you're just done. You know, you're not going to be doing work, you're not going to be doing anything, you just go to class and you come back, you're done. You want to do it when you want to do it. And I did that for a little bit, and then I realized that's not how things work. 9-to-5 job, treating it like that is really helpful because it gives you a start and a stop date. So you're really able to see that there is an end in sight, but also that you need to get your stuff done. And it kind of helps prepare you for that like average work day, which is really nice. And I've had such a better time meeting deadlines and staying efficient and just feeling better at the end of the day, knowing that I kind of treated it very consistently throughout the days. So I would definitely suggest that as well. Like our code, we all have routines as well. I have mine. So one of those things is my priority task list. It just helps me stay on track with not doing things that are due in 3 weeks before I get things done that are due in 2 days, which is really important for me. My second routine, which is more personal, is that I drink tea every morning. I swear by mint tea with honey in it. I think it's better than any coffee. And my final routine I'll talk about is that I always try to redo projects. Now this doesn't really apply if you're doing work-related projects or research projects, you're not really able to redo those. But for school-related projects, I always try to redo those because the knowledge you have at the end of the class is much better than the knowledge you had at the start. So you're going to apply things in a completely different way. So originally I started programming on my own around 9 years ago. I had learned some basic things for web development, just for social media websites and things like that I was using. So I learned a little bit here and there, and in a game development class at my school at the time, they taught you a little bit of HTML, which kind of just got my introduction into development as a total thing and what it really meant. Then when I was 14 or so, after a few years of kind of learning on my own, learn slowly. I had joined my high school robotics team, which is really where I got my start focused on what I am today, which is object-oriented programming. I would greatly recommend doing a robotics team if you have the option to. It's pretty much my dream. If you have any kind of dream of intermixing computer science with engineering, it's the perfect outlet for you. You're going to be in a team of other students that are, either belong to what we had was subsets of electrical team, mechanical team, and then the software team. So when I first joined, I was on the software team. And then by my senior year, I was leading the entirety of the engineering team. And so I got to oversee the mechanical design, check out the wires. I had done some wiring, and I had also done a lot of the programming there. So we had done vision tracking technology. We had done a few different things with the software team as well. It's a really fun experience, and it gets you kind of into the mindset of how to problem solve, how to work with other people, and just generally how to develop your skills from just coding to applying that into a real life scenario. As for languages I mostly use Java, C++, and C, and Python, but most of the time my main focus is in Java and C++, so most of my classes use one of those two. I've used other ones in the past, like TypeScript, JavaScript. LabVIEW was an obscure one that I used for robotics, but other than that, those are the ones that I don't use as much anymore. I've found that Java and C++ are pretty common in universities to focus on. Like my university focuses on Java for the first 3 years of your courses. So there are a few classes here and there that you see or things like that, but most of the content is focused on one of those foundational levels of object-oriented programming. So I would suggest the beginners start there if they intend to go to a university, because that can kind of help them get an edge when they go in and they're already kind of aware of the syntax of it. For some tips for programmers or anybody starting out, I would suggest taking breaks. New eyes will always catch details that you missed before, and errors, which in my experience, has always been really helpful for deadlines. Also, I think that you should always ask how your work is going to affect the world. I think that goes with the concept of ethical engineering and just kind of focusing on using your work to better the world and using your work to help other people, which can be really helpful. And I try to live by that. I hope that others also try to live by that. I would also say focus on the concepts of programming rather than the syntax, especially at first. You're going to learn the syntax along the way, especially with projects as you go, but the concepts and the structure underneath are incredibly valuable to understand, and I'm lucky that my college kind of focuses on those structures, and we do definitely learn the language along the way, but it's mostly how those would actually interact with things and where you'd use those things and the benefit of them, which I think is great to understand the deeper meaning of what we're doing. I think it's really important that you keep open to criticism, keep open to learning new things, and try not to focus on, the top of the top, rather than focus on, are you doing something that you care about? Are you doing something that you find that you're good at? And that's really where it matters, I think. So as I said, my focus is primarily on biomedical engineering and the overlap of that with computer science. I've seen pretty much every field of engineering, I think, has really started to develop or revolutionize. We've had personal mobile devices, PMDs, that have gone from flip phones to what we have today of iPhones and Androids and these just amazing devices that we have with more power than we had going to the moon. And I've seen, cars develop, I've seen all these fields develop. The one that I have yet to see really keep up as much is the medical technology field. I think it's a constant battle between cost and implementing those widely and getting them tested and everything like that, making sure they're safe and they work. So it's kind of like we've commonly stuck to what we do know rather than what we could develop, because it's just too costly. And for me, I think that's an incredible tragedy, because there's so much technology out there that we could use. So personally, I would love to develop that into something that can actually be revolutionized. So with that, I really find a focus in artificial intelligence and how that relates to that. And, I think a lot of people see a lot of views for AI, and it can be controversial at times, but pattern detection is one thing that's super valuable when it comes to medical technology that we haven't really explored as much in depth yet. You know, even in a situation like now, how useful would it have been to have a scan that could have predicted and prevented these outbreaks from happening in the first place just by locational technology using machine learning, which could basically detect, like, as more scans are done, as more scans are on the market, growing that knowledge and knowing where these patterns are and harnessing that power and focusing on the accuracy, which I think is really important. You know, medical staff are so overworked. A lot of hospitals are understaffed, and there's so many issues that they have to go through, and they are not nearly credited enough for their work. And I would love to have that focus back on them able to do their diagnostics and their treatment and their, you know, passion and specialty and taking care of people, rather than focusing on triage or things like that can be kind of automated, or at least a little bit better detected, so that they have a pointing direction. So one of the things I find the most important for me and the most enjoyable for me is research. So I started researching in high school. I did a full research project on the Internet of Things and the security that consumers have with using those devices. So things like internet-powered lights, connected devices like Amazon or things like that. And it was more so just to get an understanding of how consumers view these devices versus how they actually are perceived in the tech world. After high school, then I started my independent research based on my passion, which is biomedical engineering. So I started researching on AI, medical imaging technologies, and things like that. So there's a lot of stages of research. What I would recommend is that first you need to have a subject that you're really passionate about or want to do more research about, and then you need to kind of find a gap, is what my advisor always told me, is find a gap in that research of what's out there. Look through the research, find what's out there, and then find where you could come in with a research question and kind of close that gap. And then you make your question based on that gap and something that needs to be objective and able to be quantified and things like that. After that, typically in my experience, I've had to do a lit review, which is pretty much looking at all the research that pertains to it and summarizing all those, drawing conclusions from those for how it can pertain to your research as well. So for example, this is a bunch of academic journals for my area of research, which is artificial intelligence and medical scans. So you can see medical scans, you can see a lot of tables and information that I'm still going through right now. That's all for me. I really appreciate the opportunity to meet everybody and to learn something new and to share my experience. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, please direct those to my main account